Trump tweets and the stock falls. This new phenomenon has occurred when incoming President Donald Trump has publicly criticized big companies such as Boeing, Lockheed Martin, and United Technologies, prompting a sell-off in the shares. So who else might get tweet-bashed by Trump, and who might be immune from it? Here to discuss that is Chris Malone. He's founder and managing partner of consulting firm Fidelum Partners. Thank you for coming by.
Glad to be here.
You've done what you call some behavioral analysis of Donald Trump. Why don't you just quickly summarize what do you know about him or think you know about him?
Yeah, so I think if we're going to be able to forecast into the future and better understand what President-elect Donald Trump is going to tweet about or focus on, we'll need to better understand not just what drives the markets, but also what drives him as a man. We've spent the last 2 years taking a look at his words and actions from a behavioral standpoint, using social psychology and the psychology of human social perception, and we think we've got a pretty good handle on what drives him. So, for instance, he's very much driven by gaining respect and appreciation. That's a big part of why he ran for office, and he pursues that in a very reactive, very opportunistic, and very aggressive way. And I think that's reflected in a lot of his most recent tweets.
So if we just go through some of the companies he's gone after, I mean, you can kind of see this. It tends to be companies that happen to be in the news right then. It was Ford Motor Company during the campaign. We saw him going after Carrier, also in the news, this other company near Carrier in Indianapolis. Is that what's going on there? He's just seeing something and he's quickly saying, I can benefit from this somehow, and going after an opportunity?
I think that's right. He's out to score points and settle scores. And so when he sees an opportunity, in the same way he would with real estate, he grabs it aggressively and reactively, hoping to score points with it. And so if we try to look into the future and forecast his focus using traditional approaches and political forecast, we're going to be very frustrated. His approach is much more opportunistic and reactive, and he'll always have his finger in the air to see which way the wind is blowing. And that's going to be a better predictor of who are the soft targets and who are the easy targets for him.
So let's go through some of those. You've identified some companies you think are vulnerable to Trump in this way. Who are they?
So similar to United Technologies and Boeing, we think that Booz Allen Hamilton is an easy target. They are the employer originally of Edward Snowden.
Right.
And also this other NSA employee from this past summer who was also convicted for taking classified information.
And they're basically a consulting firm that has a lot of federal contracts, right?
97% of their revenue comes from government contractors. NSA is their largest customer. Okay. And looking at how President-elect Trump thinks about these things, hey, you didn't do a very good job for us. We either want some rebates or some discounts. He'll have a lot of leverage to extract concessions.
Does that suggest any company that does big business with the federal government is vulnerable?
I think so. And so to the extent there's been a big run-up in defense contractors and thinking that they're going to do well, they're also very leveraged and vulnerable to kind of pressure from him. I think what you're going to expect is he's going to demand more, but he's also going to get more in return.
So any other soft targets that don't fit that profile, that are not necessarily federal contractors?
Another one I think is Walmart. So I think when Trump starts to dig into the details of Obamacare and looking for ways to roll that back, Walmart is one of those companies that really holds down the hours of their part-time employees, and so those are ones that have actually found health care coverage through Obamacare. If he takes a look at that and says, hey, you're not really doing your fair share, you're shifting this cost to taxpayers, I could see them coming under pressure to release that and reduce that burden on taxpayers.
Now, he's gone after some companies that are pretty popular with consumers. Amazon, he's had some criticism of. Apple, during the controversy with the iPhones last year and the protected private information on there. Are those companies vulnerable, or are they in a better position?
I think they're actually in a much better position. They're actually what I call Trump-proof. And I think Donald Trump is a little bit like a new sheriff in town, wanting to kind of establish his credibility and authority. He's willing to show he's willing to go toe-to-toe with the toughest guys in town. And I actually think he has more to gain from scoring points with these companies by reaching out to them in a friendly way, earning some support and some credibility that burnishes his own reputation. And even in this tech summit that occurred this week, I think that's a good example of what happened. He came out with a very conciliatory approach, and I think he stands a lot more to gain by associating himself with these well-respected CEOs and scoring points that way.
Any other companies that fit the profile?
We also think that Tesla and Starbucks, for example. Tesla, lots of manufacturing jobs in the U.S., very forward-thinking, very loyal following. And one of the things that characterizes these Trump-proof companies is these are companies that have pretty good bully pulpits of their own. Very visible CEOs, very loyal customers.
So Elon Musk at Tesla, Howard Schultz at Starbucks, and so on.
Exactly. These are guys that can counterpunch as well. And Donald Trump doesn't want to take a lot of hits if he can avoid it. And so he's better off kind of cozying up to these companies, earning some respect, maybe a few minor concessions that show, hey, we're working together, and I've got the respect of these very respected people.
Since you describe his approach as opportunistic, I would guess that it also, I mean, a lot of these companies must be saying, look, we just need to stay out of the news so he never hears about something we're doing. Is that what you'd be doing if you were a CEO?
I think there are two ways you could approach it. One, you're certainly not going to go out and publicly criticize him because there isn't going to be any criticism that shows up on the radar screen that isn't going to get a response, right? We've seen that every time.
You're going to get it back if you criticize the president. Yeah.
The others that are taking the approach, they're making that pilgrimage to the Trump Tower, right, to kind of kiss the ring or show respect and demonstrate that they're willing to work with them. Either one of those strategies could work, but I think that all of the CEOs that showed up at this tech summit, as well as his Council of Economic Advisors and so forth, they're going to be looking to show that they're open-minded, they're willing to work with him, and, you know, under the right conditions, want to all move the country forward.
Last thing, we have seen at least one company I can think of, Dow Chemical, was opportunistic in itself, it seemed, and they sort of piggybacked on a Donald Trump rally to get up there on the podium, the CEO, and said, oh, we're announcing some new jobs we're going to be creating. Is that a smart strategy, is to sort of get on board with incoming President Trump if you have something good to say like that? Or could that backfire?
I think if you're announcing new jobs, I think everybody's in favor of more jobs in the United States. And so I think you can do that in a way that is broadly acceptable and supported and all of those things. I think you just want to be careful as a company not to partisan, apply yourself too strongly to one side of the political spectrum or another, because you've got customers, you've got employees, all kinds of constituents that are on different parts of that spectrum.
Yeah, interesting stuff. Folks at home, let us know what you think. Should Trump be tougher on U.S. companies, or should he give them a break? Tell us in the comments section below, or look us up on Facebook and Twitter at Yahoo Finance.